An elderly man with worn-out shoes and tattered clothes carefully crossed the street and gazed at the neon sign of a five-star hotel. Despite his appearance, he entered the hotel lobby, which shimmered with crystal decor. A bored-looking young lady sat at the reception, engrossed in a phone conversation. Initially, she didn't notice the old man and likely assumed he was a homeless person seeking money from hotel guests. However, as he approached her, she visibly tensed up. The man politely requested to book a room with every possible amenity and pulled out an old wallet with cash. Regrettably, the receptionist informed him that the hotel was fully booked and would remain so. She spoke in a cold tone while flipping through a fashion magazine. The man's lips quivered and tears filled his eyes at her harsh words. Yet, he mustered up the courage to read the receptionist's name tag and addressed her by name, saying, "Amanda, please trust me. I have traveled a long way, and I don't have the energy to look for other accommodations. You have at least 10 empty rooms." The old man's tenacious gaze fixed on a row of keys hanging in their place. Amanda, the bored receptionist, informed him that the five-star hotel couldn't offer a room to people like him. She emphasized that they valued their reputation and couldn't risk housing suspicious guests. The old man pleaded for a room, even the worst one, since he hadn't rested in a while. Amanda called over the manager, Howard Smith, who promptly pointed the old man to the door. The old man refused to leave and appealed to the staff's conscience. The manager ordered the doorman to take the old man out through the back door to avoid scaring off guests. As the doorman dragged the old man away, he met Betty, the hotel dishwasher. She protested, asking why they were mistreating him and if he was feeling well. As James, the doorman, dragged the old man towards the back door, he gave Betty a sly smile and challenged her to deal with the situation. He claimed that he didn't get paid to deal with hobos and other miserable people. Meanwhile, Betty reached out to the old man, asking for his name and offering to help him. The man introduced himself as Mr. Stewart and pulled out a bottle of pills to ease his headache. As they spoke, some female workers made a tasteless joke about Betty's husband, implying that he was of low quality and wouldn't provide a bright future. Betty blushed but didn't respond. Mr. Stewart asked why her husband was considered second-rate, and Betty revealed that he had lost his leg in a construction accident. Despite the workers' insensitivity, Betty kept her composure and showed kindness to Mr. Stewart. She waited for her husband to finish his shift and offered to help the old man further. The man's employer's negligence caused a heavy concrete block to crush Henry's leg, which unfortunately had to be amputated. Despite this setback, Henry remained optimistic about his future. He had a challenging childhood, growing up in a group home and never having children. He and Betty lived in a rundown shack in an underserved area, and their only prized possession was an old Ford car that Henry used for his courier job. When Betty saw Henry's car approaching, she breathed a sigh of relief and gestured to the old man. "Will your husband mind if I stay with you?" asked the old man nervously. Betty assured him that Henry was the best person in the world and would welcome him with open arms. Soon, the three of them were on their way to the Robinsons' small house. To the old man's surprise, Henry was a pleasant and engaging conversationalist who never complained about his back pain from the injury. They talked late into the evening, and the old man realized it had been a long time since he had enjoyed such good company. The Robinsons insisted that he spend the night, even though he protested. The next morning, Mr. Stewart awoke with the first rays of sunshine and made a strange request to Henry to take him back to the hotel he had been denied access to yesterday. After Henry drove Mr. Stewart back to the hotel, the old man headed straight for the back entrance, where he ran into Amanda. She recognized him and promptly asked him to leave, but Mr. Stewart had other plans. He sought out the general manager, Martin, and demanded an explanation for the mistreatment he had received the day before. Martin was shocked to learn that Mr. Stewart was the owner of the hotel chain and apologized profusely, but the owner was relentless in his criticism. He scolded Martin for allowing such heartless and uncompassionate behavior from his staff, and announced that he was dismissing both Martin and all of the service personnel. The only exception was Betty Robinson, who had shown kindness to Mr. Stewart and would be offered a better position than her current role as a dishwasher. The employees were shown the door, and Martin and Amanda were left to contemplate their actions. Meanwhile, Mr. Stewart left the hotel feeling satisfied that justice had been served. Turns out, Mr. Stewart had received several complaints about poor treatment of customers in his hotel, but he was hesitant to believe them. To verify the situation himself, the elderly businessman decided to go undercover and see for himself if the complaints were justified. The very next day, a serious-looking man appeared at the home of Betty and Henry Robinson with a large stack of documents and a pleasant tone of voice. The man announced that he came on behalf of Mr. Stewart and had news that would make the couple happy. It turned out that Mr. Stewart had paid for a 3-month course of treatment for Henry, and he ordered him 3 state-of-the-art prosthetic legs that serve different purposes. In addition, the grateful businessman bought the Robinsons a nice cottage in an elite part of town and a luxurious car. When Betty said they didn't deserve such expensive gifts, the man replied, "What Mr. Stewart is giving is a very small portion of his wealth, akin to a grain of sand in the vast desert. You, on the other hand, gave up a much larger portion of what you have when you gave him food and shelter. Trust me, my boss does not take such things for granted and always remembers good people." Henry and Betty were overwhelmed by their good fortune and watched as the man walked away, thinking of Mr. Stewart as a kind wizard who had crossed their path.